you eat with your eyes, and I think you buy with your eyes, right? I mean, I've done that. You've done that. Pretty much everybody listening to this podcast has done that. You're walking down the grocery aisle and you go, oh my God, this packaging is amazing. That draws your curiosity. And then it's a conversation starter. So I knew that from my own behavior. And so I wanted to create a brand that was eye-catching and it pops and, has you curious about the product. And I also wanted it to convey the playfulness of the product, because the whole brand is to invite people to play with flavor.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Startup CPG podcast. This is Grace, and I'm back with another founder feature. Today, I'm talking to Sahithya Wintrich, the founder of Chutni Punch, a line of delicious seasoning blends inspired by Sahithya's South Indian heritage. Chutni Punch is on a mission to undo the perception that using spices is complicated and overwhelming. Their blends offer an invitation to be creative and playful while flavoring our food in a way that also nourishes our health and well-being. I love Chutni Punch's spice blends, and I also loved chatting with Sahithya for this episode. I hope you enjoy listening, and as always, let me know what you think.
Hey, everybody. As you know, the Startup CPG podcast recently became a top 0.5% world podcast thanks to your reviews. I wanted to shout some of them out here. Booskie's Cookies says she listens to us while driving. She likes to hear from seasoned experts who have been there, done that. Emily Pesh says it's a goldmine for nuggets for her marketing newsletter. Kafka CPG says they always recommend the podcast as the best entry point into the industry to learn the ins and the outs and the whys and the hows. Thanks a lot. If you can rate us, go to ratethispodcast.com/startupcpg. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Startup CPG podcast. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by Sahithya Wintrich, the founder of Chutni Punch. So welcome to the show. I'd love for you to introduce yourself and Chutni Punch to our listeners.
Nice to see you again, Grace. Thank you for having me. From Fancy Food, it's been a little bit of time, but happy to see you. Hi, everyone. My name is Sahithya Wintrich, and I am the founder of a seasoning line called Chutni Punch. It's based on Southern Indian pudis or chutney powders, and they're shelf-stable condiments that you can sprinkle on flavor on anything.
Yes, and they are delicious. My personal favorite is the I think it's called Super Sesame.
Oh, yeah.
And we were putting that on, we ran out sadly, but we were putting that on our popcorn. I was putting it on top of my eggs, avocado toast, just anything that needed a little hit of savory umami yumminess. It was so good. Everything. But would love to hear a little bit more about why you decided to start this line of seasoning blends, and a little bit too about, the history of this idea of a chutney podi and why you wanted to bring that to, retail shelves and consumers here in America.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. So I was born and raised in Bangalore, which is in southern India, and I grew up with a pantry staple that we call chutney powder or chutney podi. And this is made all across South India, okay? It's kind of like a barbecue sauce or a spice blend, a barbecue spice rub, where every family has their own recipe, and everybody makes it in huge quantities that last several months because it's shelf stable. So I grew up eating these chutney podis on my savory breakfasts and fermented dumplings, like rice and lentil dumplings. And, I moved to the United States 24 years ago, and I brought my love for savory breakfasts with me. And I found that, I was eating more than just Indian food, right? I eat avocado toast, I eat scrambled eggs, I eat taco, like beans and toast. And I found that I was sprinkling my family recipes on my breakfast to add a kick of flavor. And then one day over breakfast, my husband decided to just say, there might be other people in the world who might enjoy a chutney powder. And that kind of sparked the idea of exploring this particular seasoning line and to bring that to the American audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And it sounds like we have similar approaches to our breakfast. Savory breakfast all the way. I'm not a sweet breakfast person.
Yeah.
So once your husband sort of said, okay, maybe you should bring this to more people.
Yeah.
How did you then, take the first steps to actually turning it into a fully fledged brand? And were you coming with any, previous knowledge of this industry or like how to even start doing that?
Oh, yeah. So, like I said, chutney powders are these, shelf-stable spice blends. They're typically like legumes and a mixture of toasted legumes, seeds, herbs, spices, tamarind. And, I don't have a background in CPG. I actually have a background in tech and biomedical engineering. And the CPG industry is brand new to me. But I will say it's interesting to see the thread of experience and how that kind of helps you out, because I was actually agile software development is a way of developing software. And one of the philosophies is like a lean startup method, right? So you have an idea and then you work on it a little bit, you release it, you get feedback, and then you iterate on that idea. So I had experience with that. So when I wanted to bring this seasoning line forward, the first thing I did was call my aunts and my mom and say, hey, I'm happy you send me these giant bags of chutney powders, but can you share the recipe with me? because I want to test something out. And so it was a lot of jotting down of different versions of the same recipe and then making that version, testing that out with my poor neighbors and friends. Made several batches of this and then tweaking it, because while the heritage blends work great with Indian food, I found that the flavors and textures didn't quite translate to my tacos, my pizza, my popcorn, and they didn't quite translate to like using it on pasta, for example. So I had to kind of put on my, flavors that I like, and also consult with my local chef friends, right? And to say like, hey, would you like increase the acid on this? Would you increase, what would you change about this to translate to multiple cuisines? And all of that testing is what I landed up with, like 3 recipes, which are now savory chana, super sesame, and spicy peanut. And, in the most lean fashion, I got on Canva. My initial logo was a boxing glove, because we wanted our tagline to be punch it up, right? Punch up your food, punch up the flavor. And we kind of wanted to play on the whole fact of, my grandma, because this is, little bit of an ode to my grandma. With a grandma with a boxing glove, like punch up your food. And then I thought, you know what, this is not going to get people interested, the logo. So I worked with the local design firm to release the first iteration of branding, which is not what you see today, to get people's attention.
How many times have you iterated your branding? Because I was just, as you were mentioning your branding, I was thinking about it, and I do love your branding. It feels so vibrant and it's very eye-catching. And even your website as well, it all feels very cohesive. Like you really get the sense of Chutney Punch as a brand with your colors and just the vibe. So I'm curious how long it took you to get to this sort of version of the branding.
We're a little unusual in that the advice is not to invest in a rebrand within the first year of launch, but that's what we ended up doing. And the reasoning for that is you eat with your eyes, and I think you buy with your eyes, right? I mean, I've done that. You've done that. Pretty much everybody listening to this podcast has done that. You're walking down the grocery aisle and you go, oh my God, this packaging is amazing. That draws your curiosity. And then it's a conversation starter. So I knew that from my own behavior. And so I wanted to create a brand that was eye-catching and it pops and, has you curious about the product. And I also wanted it to convey the playfulness of the product, because the whole brand is to invite people to play with flavor. So when you think of spices, it's overwhelming. It's something I grew up with. it's kind of a learned knowledge, I guess. Like you see your mom, your grandma cooking with these things. And, it's funny, like, when I ask a recipe, usually it's like, oh, it's so easy. You can make it in 10 minutes. And my mom's telling me 15 ingredients takes 45 minutes to make. And I'm like, Mom, this is not easy. Not the definition of easy, right? So I kind of wanted to create something where people this is your first foray into spices, if you will. It's already pre-toasted and pre-cooked. So all you need to do is literally sprinkle this on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they are so delicious. And I love that idea of pre-toasting them as well, because so often you are told in a recipe, like, well, bloom the spices or make sure you toast them first so the full flavor comes out. And sometimes you're just like, I don't actually want to do that right now. I just want to sprinkle something on and move on with my life. But so thinking a little bit beyond the branding and more the development of the spice buns itself. So you launched with 3, but how long did it take you and what was the process like of going from, say, these like homemade spice buns that you get the recipe from your aunts and your mom and have them tested by your, friends, family, neighbors, and then taking it to what it is now, which is, a beautiful jar of a spice bun. How long did it take you to get it out of the kitchen and into this more, retail friendly
format
packaging?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. So it took me about 9 months to nail down the flavors from the start of the recipe to actually having something that's packageable, ready to be packaged. Because I had to reproduce the recipe, right? Because right away it was like, oh, you can't measure in spoons and cups. You have to change it to grams because it's a repeatable process. And this is kind of where like my, stem cell research and geeky stuff I did back in the day came in handy, right? Because it's all about writing down the precise measurements, researching a scale, right? Because that took some time, and buying a scale that was precise enough because some of my ingredients are very, very light. So it has to be, multiple decimal places of measurement. So, doing that, it took about like 9 months. And then during those 9 months, I knew I needed a label that would work, if I went to a farmer's market and sold. And that's exactly what I did. I approached this design studio and said, listen, I don't have a lot of money right now. What can you, create that people could take me seriously? Because I was producing out of a commercial kitchen right at the get-go. I got the inspection right from the beginning. I was not producing this out of my house. And I knew I needed the labels to match the product. So it's about a year, I would say, like 9 months to a year. And then, that's when I started selling at farmers market, because the first step was, well, okay, great. We have a product. We have a jar because, we selected the packaging. And then it was like, well, will people pay money for this thing that I created? So that was the next step. So that took about another 6 months. And within the first 3 months of me selling at the farmer's market, I knew I needed to like up my packaging one more iteration. So that began the rebrand. Soon after I released the first version of the brand. Yeah.
And when did you like officially launch Chutni Punch?
So May of 2022.
Okay. So you guys are still pretty young.
We're very young.
Yes. But doing a lot nonetheless. So when you did start going to the farmers markets, it sounded like you got, pretty immediate feedback. And what was some of that feedback like, and how obviously it helped you in the idea of, redesigning your packaging, but how else did it help you to kind of iterate Chutni Punch as it stands today?
Yeah. So what I found, and this is still true today, most people are curious about it, but they're a little bit skeptical if they will like it, because they're like, oh, I don't know if I like spices. I'm not a spicy person. And once they taste it, the conversion is easier. So that was my first learning, is sampling is the way to go. This is a new condiment. It's a new category. Honing in on my pitch was the other part of it, right? Like, how do I explain this product? For a South Asian, I don't need to explain this product. People are somewhat familiar with it, but those were not my customers at the farmers markets, right? So I had to explain that this is a sprinkle on flavor. And And then, kind of connecting with people, kind of understanding what people eat, what their behaviors are, because again, we're asking for a behavior change. If you are a person who loves salt and pepper every single day, what I'm requesting you to do is abandon that behavior and adopt a new one, which is sprinkle on this new kind of seasoning, a new kind of condiment that you've never heard of on your avocado toast. So connecting with that person and understanding their pain points, which, some of them would say, I eat avocado toast every day, but I'm kind of bored of it tasting the same way. And this is a way for us to add to people's flavor toolbox, like you will. So I knew that kind of was an awareness I got right from the beginning.
We'll be right back.
Are you ready to get fancy? Fancy foods, that is. I am so excited for one of my favorite events of the year. It's Specialty Food Association's Winter Fancy Food Show. It feels like only yesterday we just rocked their summer show in New York, but actually the epic winter show is right around the corner in Las Vegas this January. I love exhibiting at or just walking the winter show. The ratio of buyers to brands is fantastic. You get those awesome West Coast natural buyers, you get national chains, distributors, and I personally think brands from our community can really stand out at the show and get a ton of value. And for the first time ever, Startup CPG will have a huge presence. We're going to have a 20-booth dedicated section. We're going to be running a female founder lounge. We'll have a main stage panel with Whole Foods, Bristol Farms, Grocery Outlet, and Thrive Market. You know we're bringing brands up to quick pitch them. And we'll have opportunities to match you up with retailers for meetings at our booth. Learn more at specialtyfood.com. And if you're going, make sure to join us on Slack, the Winter Fancy Foods channel, to find out about all of the cool events we'll be doing. See you there.
And now, back to the show.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that so many founders have talked to me on this show and just in general about how useful doing things like farmers markets can be when you're first starting out, to get some of that information about just how to pitch and what the problem actually is that you're solving. And so it sounds like it was super useful for Chutney Punch. And now that you guys, are about, a little more than 2 years in business, what are some of the other strategies you're taking to get those touch points with consumers, beyond the farmers markets? I know you guys are in some retail, and obviously you're at Fancy Foods this summer, which is a lot of touch points with a lot of different people. Yeah. But yeah, how are you, approaching getting this product in front of consumers?
Yeah, that's actually one of the challenging things we have, because like I mentioned, when people try it, they like it. I'll say 98% of the time I have conversion. And, your favorite flavor, super sesame, is the best seller, right? No matter what your taste background is and, experience you have with spices, a lot of people love that flavor because it's the middle of the road flavor. The heat comes right in the middle. So other than doing these events and building a community, one of the pain points for me is like, how do I get people to experience the taste of my flavors and understand how easy it is to use digitally? Because what we're trying to do is build a direct-to-consumer business first. Because it looks good on the shelf, but you don't know what it tastes like when you look at the jar. So that's been a little bit of a challenge for us that we're working on. And, we're trying to create content. We're trying to do collaborations with local restaurants and chefs. We're trying to plug ourselves into events. Anytime there's a sampling event, we're trying to get in front of people where this is just available at the table for people to try. We're trying to think outside the box, look at ways that you could use this because it is versatile. So who's to say this is not great on a cheese board? It is so put it on a cheese board with a little bit of olive oil, put it on, sprinkle it on your bone broth. So this is an example. I didn't know the gym I work out at, one of the owners tells me, cause I gave this to him as a gift. He's like, "Oh yeah, I love your stuff on bone broth." And I'm like, "Whoa, bone broth?" He's like, "Yeah, let me show you how I do it." And then he took me to his office. He warmed up a cup of bone broth, and here he is sprinkling my blends on bone broth, which I didn't think of a way to use it, right?
Totally.
So it's thinking about these fun, exciting, and versatile ways that you can use these blends that basically add flavor, a different kind of flavor. is what we're working on right now.
Absolutely. And you actually gave me an idea as you were talking. I was like, yeah, sprinkled in olive oil and then dipping bread in that. That sounds amazing. I want to sprinkle chutney punch on olive oil and then dip my bread in. That sounds really good. But I have also used it, I will say, in like soup as just a final flavor topper as well. Not in bone broth, but just in soup. So, or on top of soup. So, I can vouch for that as well. I think it's a really common problem with like newer products that, people here in the States maybe have less awareness of. And we can all be very staunch in our ways and want to just get what we know and don't want to, think too outside of what we know. So I think that makes sense. And I think it's probably what a lot of brands experiencing and just having to get people to try it. So I was also thinking about having people try it when you were at Fancy Foods. Like, what was some of the reactions you had at these trade shows? And I know you've done a couple this year as well. So what has the sort of trade show experience been like for you and for Chutney Punch?
I'm bad. I go gorilla mode at trade shows. I'm like, hey, do you want to try some chutney punch? Try to pull people on the side. But no, it's been great. Some comments that I've gotten. First, it's packaging, right? Everybody comments on my packaging, like, oh, this is beautiful packaging, which is a good validation for me. But then because we believe that, food should taste good, right? Food should be pleasurable. I believe in that. Getting people to try it. The comments that I get are, this is magical. This is good. This is tasty. And then the, gates open, their brain starts to work about ways that they can use it. And that is great validation for me. And that's part of why I attend trade shows. And also, meeting people, getting to know the industry. Like I mentioned, I'm new to the industry. I did not come from, I have zero experience in any CPG realm. So getting to know the who's who of the CPG world, how are people, and learning from other brands, other founders, how are they approaching their business, their products, what's working for them and not working for them. Is what I attend trade shows for. To build a community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's half the fun of trade shows, honestly, is just connecting with other like CPG founders and, coming to the Startup CPG parties,
Yeah, exactly.
Have to do that plug, or coming to our section.
The CPG parties are great. You'll find me dancing on the dance floor for sure.
Absolutely. But yeah, I know you mentioned that you guys are more focused at the moment on your DTC presence, but have you been, I know you're in some, local retail presence in your area, but what has your approach been to retail, given that you're more focused on first building, this DTC presence?
Yeah, great question. So we're only working with people who, are more of a specialty store, if you will. Anywhere that they have the staff or a team, on their staff that can actually sample our products. Because again, we notice when we sample, we sell out. So, having those relationships where the team members can actually speak to the flavors has been hugely beneficial. I'll give you an example of a gourmet market in Columbus, Ohio, right? So I just went and pitched my product. The manager tried it and I offered to drive down there and do a demo. And of course we sold out. But what I did do is actually make friends with the team members, right? Invited them to try my products because they're going to be the ones to speak to my product when I'm not there, which is so important for a product like mine.
Yeah, absolutely. And for any product, I feel, honestly, any new brand, even if you're making the most like common product in the world, I feel like I still, at least personally as a consumer, I still want to try things mostly before I buy them, or at least have someone else tell me this is really good. You should buy that. And that could be a store owner, it could be a friend, it could be someone online that I trust. So I think that makes a lot of sense as a strategy. And it's awesome that you guys sell out whenever you sample. Definitely a testament to how delicious these spice blends are. And so you've mentioned a few things, but I wanted to ask, and I always ask this, but what's been one of the most challenging moments in your business thus far. And this could be on a personal level on like how it is to be a solo founder, or this could also just be on, a more business side of things, like how do I find, a distributor? So yeah, I'm just curious. What's been one of the most challenging?
Grace, you went deep. On the personal front, it's funny you asked that because I find myself as a female founder with kids that I can't ever, quote unquote, balance my my business with family. Some days my children get my time, and some days my business gets my time. And the most challenging thing is, for me personally, is FOMO, experiencing FOMO, the fear of missing out, because I can't say yes to everything. I've either missed a deadline or I've missed communication because my kid got sick or, something else happened. And that's been challenging from a personal standpoint. From a business standpoint, I think is figuring out what the right strategy of growth for me is. I know there are some playbooks out there, like, we have the Fly by Jing playbook. We have, other great CPG brands who have made it, if you will, who have gone through the growing pains of bringing a line of products that are newer to the American market and have been successful. And I find that the Chutni Punch playbook would, learn from that and mirror that somewhat. But still, like figuring out what is really our playbook, it's still something that I'm finding very challenging to figure out and nail down, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's like every playbook is different. Even if you followed probably every single step of another brand's path to success, it might not work for the, unique aspects and unique challenges of your brand. And I think that's one of the hardest things of being in this industry is things are constantly changing. So there's not really a, step-by-step process that'll guarantee success. Sometimes it can feel a bit like of a crapshoot. And I imagine that can be really challenging on just a day-to-day level, just not knowing.
Yeah. And then also like figuring out, how much of my time, because like you pointed out, I'm doing everything. I create the content. I also manufacture in our commercial kitchen. I also do sales and marketing. I'm also the face of the brand. I'm the brand, I'm also a brand, So how much of my time should I be spending on content creation versus building the business versus sales? These are things that I'm still trying to figure out. But the hope is that what I'm hearing is 5 years is what it takes to figure out whether you have something or not. So we're in year 2. So I guess we have 3 more years of learning.
Yeah,
and growing.
Yes. I love that. That's great. It's a great advice or a great thing to hear. It's just like, give yourself some time.
Yeah.
Don't give up too soon because, you never know what's going to happen. And there's so much time to put in this work and to put in the effort. So I'd love to know, what are you most proud of since founding this brand amidst all of the challenges that come?
Yeah, we believe that food should, first of all, be really tasty, right? So the first priority was to create something super flavorful because yummy food is also pleasurable. And I enjoy eating. I don't know about you, but then good food is more than just taste, right? For us, it's like doing right by our customers, having integrity around ingredients, and also people who help us with, our manufacturing and the community and also the world around us. So, it was really important, in addition to building something that was very flavorful, really honing in on who our sourcing partners are from the get-go. We wanted to build out a network of farms that we were directly sourcing from, and sourcing from people who follow the non-GMO, regenerative farming and have integrity around organic, agriculture. So that's been something that I'm very proud of. And also along with that, packaging was at the forefront for us. So I know glass is a little controversial, but it's to me the greener option because you can reuse it. But our labels, for example, have no plastic. It's an actual estate paper label with a UV coating. So my labels get scuffed on the shelf, but I'm okay with it because again, there's no plastic coating on it. Our bands, our sealing bands for our jars are compostable. You can throw them in your home compost. And these were all important decisions that I had to make early on. And during those 9 to 12 months that we talked about earlier, packaging was something that I was considering. And I have to say, like, this has really helped us keep our values at the forefront whenever we're trying to make a decision in terms of cost cutting or what our COGS are. It's been really helpful knowing what we want to stand for.
We'll be right back.
Are you paying a ton in shipping to send out products, samples, and whatever else? The fees really add up, but lucky for you, we now have a partner that gets you access to the discounted shipping rates that are usually only available to those big companies. I worked with them for my last beverage brand, and I can tell you they definitely got us savings. Whether you're sending overnight samples, fulfilling e-commerce orders, or even a 40-foot ocean container, our partner, Enterprise Purchasing Group, or EPG, has got you covered. There are a bunch of free benefits you can get by signing up with them. You can get up to an 86% discount on small parcel shipments from UPS, DHL Express, UPS, and more. You get really competitive LTL and FTL rates through UPS. You get discounted spot and fixed ocean rates through Flexport and Maersk. You get exclusive air freights, and you also get preferential terms with supply chain financing. All you need to do is reach out to Francis Agas. His email is francis, Francis, at enterprisepurchasing.com. Mention the Startup CPG discount and take advantage of those savings. Good luck, everybody, and happy shipping.
And now, back to the show.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned, sourcing from high quality ingredients for these spice blends, because often you do hear about spice blends or spices, and you hear these kind of scary stories about like spices containing like random other scary ingredients. So I love that you're putting that at the forefront, that you're sourcing from ethical locations, and also that your packaging is sustainable and as sustainable as we can be. Nobody's perfect and no packaging is perfect.
Yeah, and there are no like hidden sugars, there are no gums or anything like that. Like my innovation with my product was to take my family recipes, but then formulated in such a way that it's shelf stable without needing to add things to improve shelf life. So yeah,
absolutely. I love that. And so thinking about some of the intel or learning you've had over these last 2 years of entering into the CPG industry.
Yeah.
What's something you would tell a founder who's maybe starting out now themselves? What's a piece of advice you either wish you'd known yourself or something you picked up along the way that you think every founder should hear before they start their business?
Well, branding is one. I kind of, happened to get lucky and followed my gut. And I feel like that was a good decision. It was a risky decision. It's still a costly, very costly decision because it cost us a lot of money to do the photography and the rebrand, but I think it's worth it. You don't have to have such a premium label, but still have something that is catchy and invest in the branding. And also think about the mission of your business, right? Again, this is something that I came to when we did the rebrand, because we had to sit down and think about what do we want our brand to convey? And I think thinking about that early on will help you with decisions and keep you grounded as things come at you, because things will, right? And then the other thing I've learned is build and grow an authentic network. When I go to trade shows, I'm more interested in learning about people than just who's who and what can they do for me, right? Actually get to know people, because people are fun, they're cool, and you might learn something from them that you weren't expecting. So try to, be really curious about people and get to know them in an authentic way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. And there are so many great people in the community who want to connect and are eager to chat and talk. And so, I always tell people, don't be afraid of just sending a message or just sending an email if you've got it. People are almost always happy to chat and connect about the business.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You have to be a little bit, you have to be bold and a little brazen about that, in terms of reaching out to people, right? Like you said, nobody is, impossible to get a hold of if you'll approach it the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So thinking about the future of Chutney Punch,
Yeah.
what's sort of on your, to-do list for Chutney Punch? What does the future look like for you guys? We're nearing the end of this year, which is crazy to think about. But as you look ahead to 2025 and beyond even, what do you see coming down the pipeline, and what are your hopes and dreams for Chutney Punch?
Yeah. So, we want to grow our online business for the seasoning line that we have. And we also, I think for next year, one of the things I want to do is build a community around eating food that nourishes your well-being. And it's interesting that now in our social media, we've seen a lot of awareness in terms of what is food and what is not food. And I'm actually happy about that selfishly, because I think that's the kind of community I want to build. Because at the end of the day, food, my grandma used to say, health is wealth, right? She would say, health is wealth every time. And she's right, 100%. You could be the wealthiest person, but if you're not healthy and well, then you can't enjoy those, the money you have or whatever comforts of life that you have. So there's the community part. The other part is collaborations, right? I mean, you mentioned one of your favorite things is to put this on popcorn. And I've started to think about, okay, so America loves to snack. This is another learning I've had, right? So drinks and snacks. People love to drink cool drinks and people love snacks. So I'm like, how can we think about food, like real food, and snacking, and how can we kind of help people navigate that actually is beneficial to their health and not detrimental? So I'm exploring a few possible collaborations where, we could have some snacks or something that, could be punched up snacks, if you will. And I'm also exploring other ways I can share my heritage and flavors I grew up eating, because Southern Indian food is a little bit different than your tikka masala and your, korma and stuff like that most people associate Indian food with. So what other products can I bring that celebrate my heritage and my flavors, but also help people eat well, but in an easy to use format?
Yeah, I love that. So if any brands are listening that want to collaborate with Chutney Punch, they should reach out. Any popcorn brands, because I would buy that for sure. You guys should make that happen. Somebody make that happen. But that makes me think there is a amazing South Indian restaurant in Philly that I've gone to, and that is an experience I've had where I'm like, oh, I actually don't know a lot of the things on this menu, and they're very different. But so good. I love this restaurant. So if you ever come to Philly, you have to go to Amma's South Indian Cuisine. Amma's, AMMA.
Oh, wow.
Shout out to that restaurant. It's delicious. If anybody else listening is in Philly.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah. But returning to Chutney Punch.
Yeah.
How can the Startup CPG community support Chutney Punch? And what can we do for you guys?
Yeah. Look, when it comes to food and eating well, right, there's like a huge trade-off between your health, flavor, and time. Right? You can only get 2 out of 3, really. Something that's tasty and fast is, often not healthy. And if it's tasty and healthy, it takes a lot of time to prepare. I know I prepare everything from scratch at home, and it takes a lot of time. So what we're trying to do is solve that equation by helping people add flavor quickly and easily to whatever food they're eating. And by using ingredients like, ingredients grown in nature, so that what you're eating is actually beneficial for your health. And honestly, it's fun to play around with this. So, I'd say, if the Startup CPG can, try my flavor, share it with your friends, and, tell us how you punch it up. That would be great. And, speaking of packaging, we have this, beautiful tube that is very giftable, right? So it's this lovely tube. If for those who are listening, it's this paper tube that opens up vertically and it's got a little bit of a story inside about, my background and how to use it. And all 3 flavors come in this gift tube. So yeah,
It's such a cute tube. It looks like one of those little God, what are they called? Like you twist them off and it's like oh my God. Okay. Well, I'm blanking on what that's called. So it's not really a very good point, but it looks like a beautiful gift. It looks like it's already wrapped and it's just the beautiful packaging of your 3 spice blends. And it really is beautiful and a really good idea for this gifting season that we're in now. I'm sure everybody that's listening is scrambling, thinking about what they're going to buy for different people. And actually, Chutni Punch was on our Startup CPG gift guide last year.
It was.
So, we stand behind it in many forms. But yeah, that's awesome. And so where can people find your products if they want to buy them or also just to learn more about Chutni Punch?
Sure. You can visit our website at chutnipunch.com. That's just CHUTNIPUNCH.com. We're also available on Amazon. Those are but our website is better.
Website's always better.
But website's always better. We're more costly on Amazon than our website, and that's on purpose. So yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Got it. Heard. Well, this was so much fun to learn more about Chutni Punch. And like I said in the beginning, I'm a fan. Honestly, the whole Startup CPG team is a fan of Chutni Punch.
Yeah.
And we, you've been such a active member of our community for these last 2 years. So we love having you on the show and getting to learn more. And thanks for coming on and thanks for everyone for listening.
Yeah, you too. Have a good holiday season. Bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, it would help us out so much if you left a 5-star review on ratethispodcast.com/startupcpg. I am Grace Kennedy, the host of the Founder Feature Series, so feel free to add me on LinkedIn or reach out to me on Slack. I'm always on the hunt for new and exciting brands to feature. And if you're a potential sponsor who would like to appear on the podcast, please email partnerships@startupcpg.com. And finally, as a reminder for anyone listening, if you haven't already, we would love for you to join our community on Slack. You can sign up via our website, startupcpg.com.